I wanted to talk about an important part of meditation. I did yesterday about mindfulness and kindness and opening the lotus. But one of the most important parts of meditation, which people don't emphasize enough, the point which gives a lot of power and depth to your meditation, is putting happiness into meditation. Looking at the joy which comes up in a meditation retreat, not as just something extra, but something essential to the path of meditation. So often when I read the Buddha talk about meditation, he kept on talking about the happiness, what the Pali term piti sukha, and how to arouse that piti sukha, to develop it and follow it, because it empowers your meditation. And I mentioned yesterday or the day before the story of King Pasenadi in the time of the Buddha, visiting one of the great monasteries, the Jetavana monastery, and noticing how all the monks in that monastery were happy and smiling. To which the Buddha said, yes, that's what happens, that's what you can expect when people are meditating correctly. And that's a powerful thing to notice, that the Buddha was saying that this is a sign that you're meditating correctly. But it's also very reassuring for me, because you only look at me, and I have to look at each one of you. And sometimes after meditation I open my eyes and I close them straight away, because it's not worth looking at. Oh, miserable. But now you look very nice. So it's good to develop happiness in the meditation at all different levels. Again, that is why I do tell jokes. That's why I do make things alive and funny, just like Ajahn Brahm used to do. And because of that, he had some great meditators as his disciples. So you have to develop some happiness in your meditation. So number one, don't get bored. You know what it is when we get bored? We always sit on the same place in the room. We always walk on the same mat. We always sit in the same chair. Change it around. Sit somewhere else when you're meditating. You know, for those sitting over here, you try sitting over there. For those sitting over there, you try sitting over here. Those in the back can try sitting on the front. And I'll go and sit over there. So mess around. Because when you're messing around, when you are playful, playfulness actually engages you with things. Playfulness means that whether you're watching the body, whether you're watching the breath, whatever you're watching, it tends to engage you with the object and also bring a lot of happiness. I was told as a school teacher that whatever you're doing, if you're teaching like mathematics, which is supposed to be very boring, just make it fun. Make it a game. And the kids will really engage with you because it's play, it's not real work. And that idea of engaging with the meditation, having fun with it, means it's so easy to keep your attention on the meditation rather than thinking or worrying or falling asleep. So we try and make it a little bit playful when we're doing the meditation. So how many have followed my advice, and when you've been doing walking meditation, do the kangaroo walking? If you're tired, if you're depressed, if nothing is working, you're frustrated, try it. Make a fool of yourself and make everybody else happy. Because what it actually does, it means you do really come into the moment. You really do stop thinking. All those worries of the past and plans for the future, which is one of the biggest obstacles in meditation, they all disappear when you see someone jumping up and down like some crazy person. What it does, engages. That's how we get into the meditation, so we don't wander around. It stops the restless mind. We're enjoying what we're doing. So when you get the sense of playfulness with the meditation, you find that your whole attitude changes. Meditation is not the same as going to the dentist. I don't know if there's any dentists here, but still, people don't like going to the dentist. It's not something you look forward to. You wake up in the morning, woohoo, I'm going to the dentist today, yes. It's something you get out of the way because, it's unpleasant, you have to do it, so you get it out of the way as soon as possible, as painlessly as possible, so you can get on with your life. And that's not what meditation's all about. Meditation should be something you look forward to. It's fun. It's joyful. One of the meditation places I went to teach at years ago, the man who took me there, there'd been many meditation retreats before, and he told me that he had so much pain and frustration when he was meditating that he called the meditation hall the torture chamber. Oh my goodness, that's terrible. If you regard this hall here, Jhana Grove torture chamber, and you come in here, you're never going to get a good meditation. You're always going to be tense and afraid and no happiness at all. So I changed its name to the entertainment center. And just changing the attitude meant that people liked coming in, they looked forward to meditating, and you know what happened? They got much more peaceful meditations, far deeper. So see if you can recondition yourself to look at meditation as something fun. And that also means that you want to meditate more and more. Whatever's fun is very wonderful. So how can you look at meditation being fun? Number one, look at all the things that you don't have to do today. You don't have to go to work. You don't have to drive through that busy traffic in Singapore or Penang. You don't have to go to work and just have all these emails and all these worries and all the office politics. You don't have to have these bosses shouting at you all day. You don't have to come home really tired and late and have to rush to get something to eat before you go to sleep at night. You're free of all of that. Isn't that wonderful? The thing is, we've got to deliberately remember what we're free of. All of you wives, you're free of your husband. Woohoo! There's an old story of the wife who told her husband, he said, darling, you're not going to see me for 2 or 3 days. He said, great, great, great. Because, they didn't have a very good relationship. And it was true, the first day he didn't see his wife, the second day he didn't see his wife, the third day he just managed to see her through a corner of his swollen eye. You're not going to see me for 2 days. Bang, bang, bang. So you're free of all of that. So which means that you remember all the trouble and also all the negativity of life. You know how negative life is? Nothing is good enough. You're never good enough. You have to work hard and your work is never good enough. Your money is never enough. Your health is never good enough. Whatever you do is never good enough. But here, everything is good enough. Even when it's freezing cold, it's good enough. And I make jokes about it. You can see the positive attitude which we have in this retreat center. And so when you hear, you remember you're free of all the negativity. Now that by itself is enough to make you happy. And you take that attitude into what you do when you close your eyes. Isn't it great? I'm free of having to do any work. And I'm free of having to prove myself. You know what it's like in work. You always have to achieve. You've got sales targets or some other targets which you have to almost kill yourself to achieve. And what's the target here? 0. No target at all. Even if you sleep all the days of this retreat, and even if you just go in your room and watch and download videos on your little machines, which you can do all sorts of things with, and you come to me and said, I've done nothing all retreat, just play around, break my precepts and do everything else. You know what I'll tell you? I'll say, very good. I always say very good. I know the word very good in many languages. Yeah, I know it's It's Bahoma Hondai in Sri Lankan, and Adimak, Bagus. I know it in many languages, but I don't know the word for very bad. I don't know that word. I've deliberately not learnt it. And that way, it's because you create a positive mind. And that positive mind creates happiness. And that happiness, if you create that at the beginning of your meditation, it gives you the oomph, the power to get deep. So when you sit down, just don't go thinking, oh God, another meditation. You're only sitting here because you've got nothing else to do. You know, you've slept, you've had cups of tea, you've had your lunch, and you don't know, what the hell am I going to do now? I suppose I better meditate. Oh God, here we go. How many hours is it to lunch? Now, if that's how you start your meditation, with no happiness at all, what's going to occur in the meditation? You get nowhere. You start with negativity and you just suffer all the time. So when you sit down, see if you can put a positive happiness in the mind. When you start saying, this is amazing, I don't have to achieve anything. At last, one place I'm free. No one is going to give me a report card after this retreat. I'm not going to be given, we're not going to award medals for the best meditator. Nor are we going to award wooden spoons for the very worst. So that you've got nothing to prove, there's no pressure on you. Isn't that wonderful? So you just sit here just to be, with no place to go, nothing to achieve, nothing to win. At last you can have a real sense of freedom. Appreciate that. And recognize the happiness of that. At last you can just be you. And no one is going to criticize you, judge you, or anything at all. That's so wonderful to be free. So wonderful to have no work to do. Just to have the rest of these days just to hang out. That's why in the West we call it chilling out. And so many people chill out at this retreat center. It's one of the reasons why it's so cold. If you were running around doing things, that would be... And so you just keep nice and cool here. And so when you sit down, just recognize just all the wonderful things which you have right now, and all of the painful, stressful things which you've let go. And that should put a smile on your face to begin with. And if it doesn't put a smile on your face, make a smile. Deliberately. Turn up the corners of your mouth. Because when you smile, again, even if you fake a smile, it does actually help you engage with the task at hand. If you have some work to do at the office and you don't like doing it, force yourself to smile. You do a much better job and it'll be finished much faster. Because if you don't, if you're negative, you'll be fighting the work you have to do. You have to do it anyway, so you might as well smile and do it. And it's amazing, just the stories I've heard of even in the most difficult situations. I remember I first learned this when I got myself talked into rowing at Cambridge. Not for the university team, because that was too much work. I was lazy. What actually happened, the boat club, they were advertising, trying to recruit members, so they had free port or free sherry. And in those days, anything free like that, I was there. And I must have taken too many glasses, because before I know it, I'd signed up. That was really hard work, rowing all the time. And when I was rowing, that's the dangers of alcohol. Don't do it. You get yourself into all sorts of stupid situations. And anyway, there I was rowing on one race, and it was really hard work. But maybe just this one incident, was worth all that sort of training and hard work. Because the coach who was on the footpath shouted at me and said, you are making a very ugly face. Smile. And I was open enough then just to try these things. So when I smiled, I realized the oar was much easier to pull, and it didn't hurt so much. That was the first time I realized that. And of course, we all know that in psychology. Whatever you have to do, if you grimace and you think it's hard, it hurts more. If you do a smile, it hurts much less. Just like one of the stories in Opening the Door of Your Heart. First year in northeast Thailand. When we went from one monastery to another monastery, it was in the back of one of these pickup trucks. They call them utes in Australia. You know, they just have a cab in the front for about 2 or 3 people to sit and a big tray in the back. And in the back of the tray, you see this in Singapore, but because it was in Thailand, they had a metal frame over the back, over which they stretched a canvas to protect you from rain and dust. And of course, the senior monks, they were up in the front, but monks like me, we were at the back. And these weren't like roads in Penang or Singapore. These were dirt roads with big potholes in them. And that didn't stop the driver driving fast. And as soon as that truck hit one of those holes, the truck went down and I went up. And you cracked your head on that metal frame. And my goodness, that really hurt. And I tell people it's all right for you because you've got padding. I've got no protection on my head. And also, you know, being a Westerner, I was actually taller than the Thais, so I hurt my head more often. But what really was strange was every now and again you hit a very deep pothole, and even the Thai monks, they also hit their head on the metal. But did they complain? Did they swear like I did? No, they laughed. They laughed when they hit their head and were experiencing pain. And I couldn't understand that. And of course, being a scientist, being rational from the West, I started thinking, how come these monks, when they're hitting their head, laugh? And my first hypothesis was these monks have probably hit their head so many times they're brain damaged. That's the only reason why they laugh. They're crazy. And then I realized I knew these monks, they weren't brain damaged. So I tried my second hypothesis. It was an experiment. I decided the next time I hit my head, I was going to laugh instead of complain. And I tried that. It took a lot of willpower. I hit my head and I laughed. You know what I found out? It hurts much less if you laugh when you hit your head. It does. If you don't believe me, get the person sitting next to you to hear you. So that degree of laughter, you know, it took away a lot of the pain. It gave you a more positive mind. And so at the very beginning of the meditation, even if you smile, it actually gets you in the mood. And it makes, just like pulling that oar was much easier to do when I smiled, meditating is much easier to do also when you smile. So for many years now, when people have asked me the posture of meditation, because someone asked that, I think yesterday, and I just went through it very quickly. When I said in that story of the monkey mind, all those monkeys, right leg over the left leg, right paw over the left paw, thumbs touching, back straight, head down, close your eyes, watch your breath. Now that's what you might read in books. You might also read in books like the Tibetans. They have to put their hands on their knees with their thumbs touching. Or you have other ways you can hold the hands. Which is the most powerful? Do you really have to make a connection, a circle, so all your energy comes into one place? Of course, that's just superstitious nonsense. You can put your hands wherever you like. You can put them on your head if you like. You can put them in your ear and one up your nose. I don't care. Wherever your hands are comfortable. You know, sometimes I just put my hands like this. It's comfortable for me. I don't know why. And what about your legs? How should your legs be? It doesn't matter. Wherever your legs are comfortable. You can be sitting against the wall with your legs out. That still works. You can sit on a chair. However you put your legs is fine. The same as your back, your head, I don't care. The only part of your posture which is important, the one which too many teachers neglect, is not the shape of your head or your back or your legs or your hands. It's the shape of your mouth. That's important posture. That's good posture. That is it. So pay attention to your posture and you'll have much better meditation. Even sometimes I notice I lose my posture when I'm meditating. But, and this is a powerful trick in meditation. If you're meditating, basically, nothing much is happening. You don't want much to happen, but, you just want to give it a bit more oomph in the meditation. Just take your attention away from whatever you're watching, whether it's a breath or an image or whatever, and put it on your mouth, and just turn the corners upwards. Even slightly. And you'll find that will give you much more energy into your mindfulness. Just a little smile will give that little piece of joy, which is enough to make the meditation very powerful and very deep. Very simple trick, but it works so well. So when you're meditating, if nothing happens, you're getting a bit depressed or bored, that you're frustrated, don't keep trying. Just put your attention on your mouth for a couple of seconds, that's all it takes, and smile. And it changes the whole part of your meditation. You are bringing happiness into the meditation. So you start with a little smile when you're meditating. It gives you energy, it gives you a positive outlook. And then you can go into the present moment, smiling at this moment with happiness. And it's amazing, you can smile at anything. Look, sometimes when some people come and they're really upset, that's what I do. I tell you a joke, I make you smile, I make you laugh, and sometimes all that depression, all that anxiety just vanishes. And I'm well known for that when I go to hospitals. I always tell people jokes and make them laugh. The trouble was once I went to visit one lady, her name was Sue. It's her first time in hospital for years. She was having hysterectomy, and for a woman that's a very, very traumatic thing. It means no more babies. So she was still reasonably young, so I went to visit her in the hospital, and the first thing she said, Ajahn Brahm, no jokes. Because when you have a hysterectomy, I think they do it keyhole these days, but in those days, it had a big scar. And that cut, across your chest, every time you laughed, it was like being tortured. So she said, please, no jokes. It would torture me. But I said, I'm sorry, I can't stop. She never invited me back again. But a lot of times you make people laugh and bring them some happiness, and the pain disappears, the frustration goes, the positive attitude to life. So you do that with your meditation. But one of the other tricks I wanted to introduce today is at the very beginning of the meditation, to bring that positive, peaceful happiness into your meditation. I've already told you don't linger on the past, but you can break the rules a little bit every now and again. So when you meditate, when your body is nice and comfortable, ask yourself, what is the happiest, most peaceful time I've had so far in my life? And bring that memory up. It may be a very peaceful meditation. It may be a time by some beach in some tropical paradise. It may be just a time by yourself by a lake. The sorts of times when you felt so content, at ease, when nothing was missing, when you didn't want anything else in the whole world except just to be there with the people you were with. Those times of peace and contentment which each one of us have had from time to time in our life. Remember that deliberately. And once you remember it, don't stop there. Fill in all the details. Where was it? Who was there with you? What time of the year was it? What time of the day was it when you were there? Was it cold, hot, windy? What was the scenery around? Was it in a building, or was it trees or forest or mountains? Build up the scenery over 4 or 5 minutes, because as you're building up the scenery in the most peaceful, happiest, contented time you've ever had in your life, you're reinforcing that feeling of peace and contentment. And after 4 or 5 minutes of deliberately thinking, remembering that moment in the past, building up that scene, you'll find you've also built up a large proportion of that same peace, contentment and happiness you had a long time ago. It's almost there in front of you. And then you let that memory go and go to the present moment or silence, the meditation. And you'll find you start with a huge boost. You're way ahead of where you normally start from. You start from peace and happiness, and the mind just carries on, making it deeper. So that's a wonderful way of remembering some of the happiness of the past, but it's not that happiness, that bubbly, joyful happiness. It's the peaceful happiness, the delightful happiness, which is another level of joy. And if you can recognize that level of joy, you understand this happiness which we put into meditation gets more and more refined. Just like when I was a kid, I loved listening to Jimi Hendrix. Later on at university, I started preferring classical music. It was more refined and more peaceful. And now, of course, I prefer the sound of the rustling leaves, or even better, the sound of silence, just nothing moving at all. It's as if I began to appreciate more subtle forms of music. In the same way that life as a meditator, you start to appreciate more and more subtle forms of happiness, each one more delightful than the one you knew before. So just being here, being content, just happy to be here, is such a wonderful form of happiness. That's why I said this, I think, the first day. It's one of my favorite sayings. It's when you want something more, you cannot enjoy what you already have. It's a brilliant saying, which sums up the Buddha's Four Noble Truths in just one line. When you want something more, you can't enjoy this moment. You're always busy looking to change it or to get further. And it's important to learn how to enjoy this moment. And the only way you can do that is by being content, not wanting anything more. This is good enough for me. That is a happiness of contentment. Understand that, realize that, and my goodness, it grows into something very, very strong and wonderful and so fulfilling. That is important in this meditation. It is that happiness which, when it comes in meditation, when you're just happy sitting here, just watching the breath, who cares about nimittas, jhanas, enlightenment? I'm just happy being here. Marvelous. Don't want the jhanas, don't want to be enlightened, because then you can't enjoy the peace you're experiencing right now. Enjoy this moment. Have fun. And then you find this moment stays, and all these other stages of meditation, they come in due course, naturally. It is also, you've heard me say so many times, that try not to put too much effort into the meditation. Stop trying and striving, because when you strive, you just get tense, and when you tense, you suffer. That's called Second Noble Truth meditation. So how can you be still without striving? If you don't strive, the mind runs all over the place. If you don't struggle, you have all these thoughts coming up in the mind, you get nowhere. It's not through striving that the mind becomes still. It's through happiness. You're having such a good time, the mind doesn't want to move. You don't force it. It happens by itself. What that actually is the same as a story which I like quoting from the old Chinese art of war, where one general in the imperial army had perfect discipline, the best discipline of all the regiments, and the emperor summoned him to court. He wanted to know what the secret of discipline is. You sometimes are managers in business, some of you are parents. How do you discipline your children? How do you discipline your workers? How do me as a monk discipline you guys? Or discipline my monks? And the way is very easy. This general had perfect discipline. The emperor said, how do you achieve that? How do you always get your soldiers to do what you want to do? He said, because I only ever tell them to do what they want to do. That's why they always follow my orders. Only tell them what they want to do, then they follow orders. And the explanation is, well, how does a soldier want to get up early in the morning? How does a soldier want to train really hard? How can a soldier want to go into battle, knowing they would probably be injured or even killed? And of course the solution is motivation. That general was a great motivator. He motivated his soldiers so they actually wanted to get up early in the morning. They just couldn't wait for the bell to go. Yeah, another day at Jhana Grove Meditation Center. You wake up in the morning, wow, this is amazing. You just want to get up early in the morning. Not because you have to, because I've already motivated you that this is a wonderful thing to do. So you get happy getting up in the morning. You motivate a person to want to spend hours sitting on your bum making it sore. How do you do that? You motivate people to get out and train. And through some sort of patriotism or whatever, this general motivated his soldiers to want to go into battle. So actually they were happy to do so. And it's that happiness which is the great motivator. If you create happiness in the people you work with, in your family, washing the dishes becomes play, becomes fun. It's a happy thing to do. Getting up early to cook the breakfast is a great joy. It's happy to do it. It's not a chore you have to get out of the way, like going to the dentist. It is a happy thing to do. And then that means you don't have to tell anybody. Everybody wants to do it. And that's exactly what happens with the meditation. You don't have to force the mind to watch the breath. It enjoys watching the breath. It's having fun. So I can't stop my mind from watching the breath. Sometimes I'm supposed to be working on the computer. What the hell, I'm going to do some meditation. Because you enjoy it. And once that joy comes into the meditation, the joy, the happiness is what sticks your attention onto the object. Sometimes, we all know that mindfulness is important, but how are you mindful? How can you be mindful of your breath? Okay, come on, be mindful. Be mindful, Ajahn Brahm. I'm telling you, I'm going to hit you if you don't be... No, that's not how you become mindful. If you put joy between you and the object, it's very easy to be mindful. You just like what you're doing. Therefore you're there. You don't run away. Which is one of the reasons why, when you're meditating, thoughts come into your mind. You know why they come into your mind? Because you're not happy enough. If you're really happy, like you were watching a great movie or listening to great music, do you think when you're listening to music? If you've ever been to a concert, have you ever turned around and said, this is really great music? Of course not, because when you're saying that, you're missing the music. When you go around do you ever take notes in a movie? Why? Because if you take notes, you miss the movie. It might be the best part of it. So when you're really into it and you're enjoying it, you can't do anything except just observe. And that's the secret of the silent observer. You're having so much fun, you can't take notes, you can't think. It just grabs your attention. So that joy is an important part of the meditation. It's what keeps you still. And the joy gets more and more and more. Now I'm coming to the next part of this joy. First of all, you basically fake it. You make yourself smile. Do a positive attitude. Remember the most peaceful memories so far. But soon that joy becomes natural. And this is where the insight which I got years ago, and then found it. Yeah, the Buddha did say that, but you have to know what the Pali is to actually to notice it. The two parts to the human mind. The two parts of the human mind are the active mind, which thinks, which reacts, which punches things on its whatever. This is the active mind. It does things, it reacts, it thinks. I call that the doer, D-O-E-R. And the other part of your mind is the knower. This is just mindfulness. It just receives information. That's all it does. The knower and the doer. Now once you see your mind in that framework, you will begin to notice that most of your mind is taken up by the doer. You're always thinking, planning, working things out, managing things, reacting to things. You do so much in your mind, there's hardly any space left just to know. Because of that, all the energy of your mind goes into doing. And there's hardly any left at all for knowing, which is why people are so dull. But in this type of meditation, where you let things go, you don't react, you don't do anything, you just make peace, be kind, be gentle. This is such a passive way of meditating that what you're really at, or what you're really up to, is suppressing this doer. You are restraining the active part of your mind which controls, which reacts, which drives, which plans, which thinks, which does. So you do nothing. And what happens next is all your mental energy, which would usually go into doing things, is now free to go into mindfulness, to go into knowing. You're either doing or you're knowing. When you suppress the doer, the energy goes into the knowing, and the knower starts to become energized. Instead of being a flat battery, it now starts to have some power. And you experience that by you feel you're waking up, like you're more aware. The food tastes more delicious. As many people have said during the interview times, the sounds become amplified. Even someone banging the door is just really loud when you're mindful. Sometimes your skin feels like there's ants crawling all over it. It's the same feeling you have right now, but it's magnified because your mindfulness is really strong. The lights in your mind are being turned up so you can literally experience more. That's what happens when your mind becomes energized. The mindfulness becomes stronger and more powerful. And with that extra mental energy, you also feel happier. High mindfulness is always associated with high happiness. That's what I never really experienced at first. But I never understood at first. But after a while, you join the dots. Every time I was highly mindful, I was very happy. Every time I was dull, I was miserable. And so when you become more still through this method of meditation, your mindfulness gets very strong, and you also get very happy. You can laugh at anything when you've got strong mindfulness. Even my bad jokes, people laugh at when... That's why I keep the very bad ones to the end of the retreat. If I did it at the beginning, you wouldn't laugh. But afterwards, you've got such strong mindfulness, you're so happy, it's easy to laugh at anything. Do you want to? This is a very bad joke. I'll try you out, see how good your mindfulness is. There were two people, they were standing on top of a cliff. And one had a canary in a cage, a budgerigar in a cage. And the other one had a parrot on his shoulder, on top of this, maybe 200-foot cliff. And the first guy with the budgie in the cage jumped off. And this was jumping off to his death. And as soon as when the bird realized what was happening, the bird realized that he was going to die too. So this bird started flapping his wings. Now, he flapped hard enough for him to sort of fly, but he was in the cage. He had to flap hard enough to stop the guy falling as well. So he's flapping his wings like he was going to die. And he flapped and flapped and flapped. It started to work. And the guy started to slow down, but it's not fast enough. So that bird flap, flap, flap. And by the time this guy came to the ground, the bird was flapping so violently and powerfully the fellow stopped. And all he needed to do was to bend his legs and get up. He survived the fall. And the budgie was on his back, panting. But he survived. And then the next guy, he had a parrot on his shoulder. He jumped off too. The parrot was on a string to the shoulder, couldn't fly away. But the parrot wouldn't flap his wings. So the guy just got out a gun and shot the parrot. Killed the parrot. But it's amazing, as soon as the parrot was shot, the guy started slowing down. And by the time he hit the ground, he didn't even need to bend his legs. He just landed as gently as a feather. And the two people looked at each other, and the first person said, "This budgie jumping is good." "Yes, but it's not as good as parrot shooting." Some of your mindfulness is good. That's one of the worst jokes. Parrot shooting and bungee jumping. Anyway, back to happiness again. So it comes naturally in your meditation. As you get deeper, you get happy. And sometimes, some of you have already experienced, you get really blissed out. Sometimes you're sitting here and it's just amazing how much happiness there is there. Because you're becoming more and more still, more and more energy is going into the mind, and that energy creates enormous happiness. What to do? Enjoy it to the max. Because the Buddha said, and I could get it out for you, sometimes I do get these quotes out just to show that yes, this is what the Buddha said. This was in the Pasadika Sutta, where the Buddha was telling somebody, I think Kumara Kassapa, if other people said, "You Buddhist monks meditating like that, you're just into happiness." And he said, you should tell the other people, yes, we are into happiness, we Buddhists. Isn't that a wonderful thing, a religion of happiness, instead of a religion of you sinner, you're going to go to hell. Yes, you Buddhists are into happiness. He said, yes, so we are. And said, you'll get attached to that happiness. He said, yes, we will. And then to tell them the 4 results and consequences of being attached to the happiness of meditation. This is straight from the mouth of the Buddha in the Pasadika Sutta. The 4 results of being attached to the happiness of meditation are: number 1, stream winning; number 2, once returning; number 3, non-returning; number 4, full enlightenment. That is what will happen, according to the Buddha, if you start indulging in the happiness of meditation. That's what we're supposed to be doing. So there's no negative consequences to indulging in the happiness of meditation. The other happiness is, sex and money and movies, there's consequences there. But the lovely consequences of the happiness of meditation is just enlightenment. That's the word of the Buddha. It's a wonderful thing to know, because sometimes you get happy in meditation, you think there must be something wrong. I'm enjoying myself. This is supposed to be religion. You're not supposed to enjoy yourself in religion. Maybe when you get to heaven afterwards, but not now. No, in this part is happiness all the way. In fact, the closer you get to enlightenment, the more happiness you get. That's why they call enlightenment Nibbanang Paramang Sukhang. Nibbana, the ultimate happiness. So the closer you get, the more happy you become. That's why you can tell a person's attainment by their smile. Stream winner, once returner, non returner. Now this is important to know, because sometimes people, when they're meditating, they get afraid of happiness. There's something inside of us, more so in Westerners, that sometimes we think we shouldn't be happy. There's so much suffering in the world, why should I be happy? But think about it, if you're miserable, do you add to the happiness of the world? You're just one more miserable person making another miserable person. There's enough miserable people in this world. Just watch the TV, watch politics. We know some happy people in the world. So being happy is a great benefit and gift to other people. And number 2, it's a great benefit and gift to yourself. So don't be afraid of it. When it comes, it's meant to happen. This is what is supposed to happen. You're doing it right. You're going in the right direction. Well done. Carry on. And the bliss becomes very strong. And the next thing I should tell you about the happiness in meditation, that sometimes it becomes so powerful you'll get afraid. And that is part of the course in meditation. There's many places, I've told people in interview times, where you come across fear. Sometimes you think it's too much for you. You can't literally take so much happiness. And I remember that in my own experience as a meditator. And this is absolutely accurate. Sometimes the bliss was so strong I thought no human being can take so much pleasure. I'd had sex and stuff like that before. This was way in another league. How can anyone take so much bliss? But my character was, well, let's give it a try. And I found one of the great insights of meditation. You can always take more bliss. And it's good for you. Number 1, with that degree of happiness, it does wonders for your body. Any sicknesses which you have get blasted away. You get really healthy. Isn't that a wonderful thing? But that's not what you meditate for. That's like a byproduct of meditation. You get so much energy, the body just can heal itself no trouble. So that's one of the byproducts. But the main thing is you're getting free, peaceful, happy. And that happiness, just go with it. Don't be afraid. You've got nothing to lose. And then you get very, very blissed out. Have a wonderful time. The jhana states are immense states of happiness. Just really blow you away. You think there can never be such happiness. It's one of the reasons why that I often say that Christian mystics, it seems 1 or 2 of them anyway, in the 12th or 13th century, not these days, but a long time ago, they seem to have managed to get into these jhanas, and they called it union with God. The immense, the powerful, pure love, incredible bliss and power and energy and love. When they said things like that, okay, that's probably that first jhana they've been through. Because that's what it feels like. Powerful bliss, profound. Which is one of the reasons why in this religion of Buddhism we don't go around giving sermons on what to believe. This whole path is how you can find out, how you can experience all the stuff you read in the books. And when you actually experience it for yourself, you understand what it really means. And it's a path of incredible, powerful bliss, happiness, love. Those things go together. The idea of metta and happiness and peace and insight. Remember that story I said of Vai, Pasanda, Sam, Atta and Metta the dog going up Meditation Mountain? That's actually how that was the first night, I think. That's actually how it works. They all come together at the top. In the jhanas, incredible, powerful metta and amazing insights. It's incredible peace. That's what it's like. So when this starts to happen, don't think, oh my goodness, something wrong is happening. I'm getting peaceful. Oh dear, I'm enjoying myself. No, go for it. Just let yourself go and just get swept along. Because that will sweep you deep inside that lotus. The deeper you go in the lotus, the more happiness it is. The more beautiful, the more fragrant. It's incredible, those inner petals of the lotus. You've never experienced so much happiness ever before. And that answers the question which sometimes people ask on the evening, Ajahn Brahm, why did you become a monk? And the answer is for the fun of it. And that's a very profound answer. So, when happiness comes, let it come. And the reason it becomes happy, just being still. The energy flows into knowing. The mindfulness gets incredibly strong, powerful, and happy. And you know one of the great secrets of happiness. Just be still. Stop running around after happiness. Be still, and the happiness is right there, and it grows. Run around, and you're actually destroying it. That's why we meditate. The path to bliss upon bliss upon bliss. And that's on offer on the next couple of days. So do you want to go to bed now? No, I want the bliss. You see, I've just motivated you. Just like the general in the Imperial Army. That's how you get people meditating more. So that's the talk this morning, whatever time it is.